Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Culips English podcast. How is it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for clicking play and joining me here for another English lesson. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. Michael Lavers from the Level Up English podcast joins me to talk, well, all about him. Actually, Michael reached out to me and asked me if I would like to appear as a guest on his podcast, and I thought I would reciprocate the favor. Now, reciprocate, this is a difficult word, but it means to respond in an equal way. So he invited me, and then I invited him. I reciprocated the request. Michael said that was a good idea, and so we actually got together and recorded 3 episodes. One where Michael interviews me, and you can hear that over on his podcast, and I'll put the link in the description for you in case you want to check that out. And of course, I highly recommend that you do. And then the second episode where I interview him, and you'll hear that interview today. Guys, we talk about a whole range of interesting things. Michael is a scholar and a gentleman, and it was great chatting with him. Our conversation begins by talking about his upbringing in England, and then he actually is based in Thailand right now. So we talk a little bit about Thailand. We talk about one of his hobbies, which is cycling, and I put him through the ringer with a rapid fire question series about life in England and the UK. So I hope you guys will enjoy the interview. That is what you'll hear today. And then next month, we're going to release the 3rd episode that we recorded together, and that'll be a collab between the two of us. It will appear on Michael's podcast. It will appear here on Culips. And we just had a conversation about things we wish we knew earlier. And we go back and forth talking about some of those things. So stay tuned for that episode coming up next month. But for today, we're just going to chat with Michael and get to know him. As always, as is the tradition here at Culips, when we have a special guest on, then the study guide is completely free for everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're a Culips member or not, anybody can access the study guide for this episode. And it includes an interactive transcript, detailed vocabulary explanations, and examples of some of the cool vocabulary that you'll hear me and Michael use while we're talking. It also includes a quiz and some questions that you can use for speaking practice and writing practice. So definitely check out the guide, especially if you're not a Culips member. This is a great opportunity to check out and test the learning materials that we give our members here at Culips. And yeah, members get not only the study guides for each and every episode, not only the interactive transcripts for each and every episode, but also a whole other great host of benefits and bonuses, such as ad-free audio, such as our member-only series, the Fluency Files, such as our weekly speaking classes. And we have at least 3 speaking classes each and every week that Culips members are welcome to join, as many or as few of as you would like. So if you'd like to join the Culips community as a member, we'd love to have you. Just visit our website, culips.com. You can find out all the details and sign up for an affordable price today. And of course, a huge thank you to all the Culips members out there for your support. Guys, we couldn't do Culips without you, so thank you so much. All right, I've been rambling on enough here. Let's get to the interview and welcome Michael to the conversation. Guys, I hope you enjoy this one. Here we go. All right, now we are joined, everyone, by a very special guest, Michael from the Level Up English podcast. Michael, welcome to Culips. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very, very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, so Michael, we're going to spend maybe the next 20, 25 minutes or so just chatting and getting to know each other a little bit, and especially introducing you to our listeners. I think a lot of our listeners probably are familiar with you already, and so maybe you're a man who needs no introduction. I'm not sure, but there might be some listeners who are meeting you and encountering you for the first time. So let's dig in, and maybe we could go back and start at the beginning of your life. And could you tell us where you're from, where you were born, your hometown, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I was born on a cloudy morning. No, I won't go back that far. I'm from England. Some of you might be able to tell by the accent. Although I'm technically from a smaller region called Cornwall, which is in the southwest of England, and I'm fairly proud of this because it's as proud as you can be as from where you're from, but it's a Celtic region, so it's a little bit like Wales or Scotland, except it's not really a separate country anymore. But yeah, it's a Celtic region, so that the culture and the language is a little bit different. The accent is quite distinct down there as well, and I think it's just a beautiful part of the country. So I have very warm feelings about Cornwall. Happy to answer any more questions about that as well. And yeah, I mean, since growing up in Cornwall, I have also lived in London for a couple of years. That's around about the time, maybe a little bit before when I started teaching online, before the pandemic, a few years before I was teaching online. Then I started the Level Up English podcast right, I think just a few months before the pandemic hit in 2019, I guess that was. Been going every week since then. I really love to do it. It's the main thing I do these days, just trying to help English learners level up their English ability. And yeah, now I'm living in Thailand. So that's the most recent chapter of my life. I've been here for almost 3 years now. So that's a brief overview, but let me know if there's anywhere else you want to dive into there.
I want to go back to Cornwall because the name of the city is pretty interesting. Do you know what the origin is? Like why the place is called
Oh,
Cornwall?
I really should know this. I feel like I did know this at one point, and I've totally forgotten. I
Yeah.
don't think it's related to corn or walls. Uh,
Okay. Okay. That's what I was wondering if there was like maybe an old fortress wall or if there were some corn farms or something.
I think the original name, like back in medieval times, perhaps, I think it was called Little Wales or something like that. So Wales is the country on the west side of Britain, Celtic region. Cornwall is right underneath Wales, across the sea, and yeah, it used to be called Little Wales. I think it was Little Wales. I might have to double check that later, and it's maybe changed over time to Cornwall. But I need to brush up on my history there.
Okay, no worries. And you said it was a Celtic region. I'm kind of interested in that because my mom's side of the family is all from
Mm.
Scotland. And so I have some Celtic, a little Celtic origin story, I guess, in my life story. But I'm wondering, you too, do you know like your family's history? Are you related to that Celtic roots of the place, or do you know anything about
Well, it's
that?
very funny you should say that because just about 2 weeks ago, I got really into ancestry, which is looking into where your family's from and the family tree, how far it goes back. There are certain websites where you can look into this. I managed to track my family back 500 years, uh, so I could see all their names and everything, who they got married to for 500 years, and that's when it kind of fizzled out. It kind of I lost uh, I lost track of people after then. I guess there weren't many records, but yeah, for that length of time, basically my family lived in the same kind of village for for 500 years. So I presume like kind of Cornish, kind of Celtic. Maybe it's always hard to say in the UK because of course we've had lots of invasions and things like that. There was the 1066 where you've got a lot of maybe French coming over and stuff. So it's kind of murky, not clear, but yeah, maybe it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting though. It's cool that you can go back and find your ancestry for 5,000 or 500 years. That's pretty amazing. I guess you have deep roots in that place. And yeah, I've been to the UK once before in my life, and I only spent a very brief time in England, unfortunately, just in London, and then I spent the rest of the time in Scotland. Maybe you could describe what kind of place Cornwall is for our listeners. Is it like a big city? Is it more like a small village? And I don't know, is there something, what's the interesting part of Cornwall, would you say?
Cornwall is a county, which is like a region of the UK, and it's the most southwestern point. It's like a little sliver, like right on the end, so it has a very long coastline because it it's surrounded by sea mostly. So it's very famous for beaches. It's got a lot of really beautiful beaches. It's one of the warmest places on the island. So yeah, very nice beaches, very good surfing if you like surfing and water sports as well. And more inland, it doesn't really have any big cities. It's not well known for cities. Like, even if you go to the biggest settlement, the biggest city in Cornwall, it still kind of feels like a town. So it's like lots of quaint villages, countryside places, lots of fields. It's that kind of vibe. So quite peaceful. And in fact, a lot of people from further up north in England will come down to Cornwall on holiday because it has a more holiday vibe, I would say.
That's so fascinating. I don't really think of surfing and England
Oh,
together, but I guess you could, right? Like, why not?
yeah.
So,
Can be cold.
yeah, you'd probably want a
Yes, yeah.
wetsuit, right?
Especially if it's not in the summer. Yeah.
Okay, so now you left the UK, you're in Thailand. You said you've been there for 3 years. And so I guess that's like night and day difference, right? Between back home and Bangkok's like this big, vibrant, very warm, very exciting city. So maybe you could tell us why you moved to Bangkok, what you're doing there, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, I love that expression, like a night and day difference. It really is very stark, very big difference. Peaceful countryside to a huge big city that's very chaotic, I would say. And I love both. I think maybe because I was brought up in the countryside, I'm kind of drawn to the chaos in some way. So that could be a reason why I like it here. But yeah, the reasons why I came here, I traveled quite a lot around Asia, uh, in my 20s, and I spent 1 month in Chiang Mai, kind of city in the north of Thailand, and I really fell in love with it. Like the food, the people, the climate, the culture, everything was amazing. I don't know if you've been to Thailand, but yeah, amazing.
Unfortunately, I've never been to Thailand. It's kind of wild. I've been to other places in Southeast Asia, but never Thailand. It's only a couple hour flight from where I am,
Hmm,
maybe 3 or 4 hours. So I got to get there one day.
yeah,
Yeah,
next on your list, yeah.
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, when I visited, I'm sure you've had this before, where you're like, yeah, I could live here. I could definitely live here. You have that feeling after just being a few weeks in a place. And a few years later, I was kind of, it was still in the back of my mind, but it wasn't like a big goal of mine. And then actually, my wife had a job opportunity. So it could either be Hong Kong or Bangkok. And I think both sounded really exciting to me. This was after COVID, the pandemic as well. So we were kind of fed up of being stuck in the UK for that period. And yeah, I just thought Bangkok is cheaper, right? So that's a
Right.
good reason.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how we ended up here in the end, just mostly for the escaping the UK and also maybe a little bit cheaper as well. So the, yeah, among many other reasons, I would say.
Okay, awesome. Now, one of my co-hosts here at Culips, Cassie, she's from the States, but she lives in South Korea, just like me. But before that, she was in Thailand. She spent a couple of years in Bangkok, and so I got to know a little bit about the country just from chatting with her. And she said that the Thai language was extremely difficult for her to try and learn, which was surprising to me because she's a pretty good Korean speaker. So I thought that she would be able to pick up Thai very quickly. But she said even the alphabet was a challenge. I know you must be interested in languages since you're doing an English podcast. What is your experience like with the Thai language? Have you tried to learn it or pick some up at all? And how is that going?
Yeah, this is a bit of an awkward topic for me. Before moving here, I was learning. I had been learning Chinese and Japanese, already two very hard languages, and ideally it would be great to move to one of those countries. It would make more sense. I would have to not learn as much, right? But it just ended up that we moved here, so I kind of decided to start learning Thai a bit. But because I didn't know how long I'd be living here, I didn't know how much I should commit, how much effort I should put into it. So I have started learning, but it's been very slow. The alphabet is definitely a challenge because there seems to be a lot of letters that kind of have the same sound or very similar sounds. Uh, I think it's a little bit like in English. You might have a C and an S, but they both can be S, right? Lots of that going on. And I think one thing that makes it much harder than Korean, I guess, is it's a tonal language. I think there are 5 tones. So if you use the wrong tone, you say something totally different. And that's something that I'm really struggling with. But I mean, at the moment, I can order a coffee. I can ask for directions. I'm trying my best to learn phrases that I need in my daily life. Like I do a lot of walking or cycling, so I learned the phrase dead end, for example, so I can say, "Is this a dead end? Can I go here?" But
Very
it's very
important
specific.
phrase.
Yeah, It depends what you do in your daily life, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I wanted to get to this. I'm glad that you brought up cycling because I love cycling. It's I would say one of like the funnest things you can do in life is just ride a bicycle. Like I absolutely love it. And I'm happy to hear that you're a cyclist as well. We were chatting a little bit before we hit the record button here, and you're actually going to be visiting Korea and doing a really exciting ride in Korea in the near future. So I'm so excited for you to be able to do that. But why don't we dig in a little bit and talk about cycling? Maybe you could tell us what kind of riding you like, what kind of bike you ride. I don't want to get too geeky about it, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit about this hobby that you have.
Well, that's probably just as well because I'm not the right person to get geeky with this kind of stuff.
Okay.
But
Okay.
for
Good.
me, so I think people have different reasons to do cycling and similar sports, right? For me, I think exploration is always number one. Um, some people, it's fitness is the main goal or whatever else, but for me, it's exploring. Like I'd rather prioritize just seeing new places and stuff like that. And I feel like cycling is a great way to do that, right? Because you're walking is too slow, right? Unless you're just going in a city. Like if you want to go from town to town, walking's going to take years. Driving, you're kind of missing everything, or on the train, everything's zooming by out the window. You're not really experiencing where you are. But yeah, I think cycling is that perfect middle ground where uh, you're able to stop quickly or easily and see somewhere, and if there's a boring area, you can cycle past quickly and get 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 past it. So for me, that's my main reason. When I'm in Bangkok, I've got a little folding bike, nothing very special that I use just to get around. I can carry it over the potholes and over the bridges and stuff like that. And if I'm actually that's the only bike I have. So if I'm doing a longer biking trip, like in South Korea, I try just to rent one when I'm there, so I don't have to worry about shipping it over. You know.
Okay, so is that what you're planning to do? Is just rent a bicycle over here then?
Yes, yeah. There's a few good
Okay.
companies actually that specialize in that, where you can cycle across the country, and once you get to Busan, you pay a bit extra, and they ship it back to Seoul.
No
So it's
way.
kind of a well, what can we say? It's
A well-oiled machine. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. One of the things that I love about living in Korea is they have all of these really convenient services, and that's just one example. Like, of course, there's a company that gives you a bike at the start and then ships it back to you at the end. Like, that's very Korean, so I think that's great. And yeah,
yeah.
you'll have to give me your full review for listeners who don't know. There's this amazing cycling path that starts at the northwest part of South Korea and ends in the southeast. It just goes across the whole country. So yeah, give me your review when you finish, Michael.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that it basically follows a river the whole way, and I think because of that, it's mostly quite flat, and I think I might be a bit wrong, but I think most of it is dedicated cycle paths, so not cycling next to big trucks and cars and stuff. So if that's true, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, I think most of it is protected. Maybe
Mm,
95% is just totally away from any vehicles other than other
that's amazing.
bicycles. So it's pretty safe. I heard there's one big mountain that you have to climb in the middle, but other than that, I believe it's pretty flat as well. So you should be in for a nice ride. And actually, I wanted to ask you about that because I know that Thailand is sort of famous for having chaotic traffic. And you said you like to ride your bike around in Bangkok and explore. Is it sketchy at all to do that? Or is it safe or what's that like riding in the big city?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it can definitely be sketchy. I feel like I wouldn't recommend it for someone who's just landed in Thailand for the first time. I feel like you have to learn a little bit about how the traffic works. It's definitely chaotic, but I do think there is more. What's the right word? More. Um, I've lost the word now, but it's less chaotic than it might seem at first. There's some, you know, people might not obey the rules or drive on the wrong side of the road, but you kind of understand why, and then you learn to expect it in the end. And I mean, there are some big roads that I will avoid for safety reasons, uh, but you kind of learn. I've learned over time that oh, this is a shortcut, or I can go down this residential street, and I can. It's longer, but it's safer. Um, yeah, so I think generally residential streets are fine. They're not very busy. It's just those big main roads in the middle which you probably want to avoid. But also, again, I'm definitely not a history expert, but my understanding of the history of Bangkok is it used to be built around canals. So before there was a train system, before cars were a thing, I guess, people would travel around the city uh, via boat on the canals. Many of these are man-made canals, and these canals, of course, still exist today. And many of them have quite precarious, quite there's often no like guardrails, but they're like little like pavements or like raised platforms where you can walk or cycle. So you have to be careful not to veer off into the water, but these are really great ways to get around. Once you know where to find them, you can get around the whole city pretty much on these like small little canal paths, and it's very peaceful.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, one day I hope I can check it out. I don't know if I'm brave enough to cycle in a foreign country like you are, a country that I've never really visited before, but it sounds amazing. So who knows? We'll
if
see.
if you come here, we'll do it together. I'll show you how to do
Okay,
it.
okay. It's a deal. Thank you. Michael, I also wanted to ask you about your podcast, the Level Up English podcast. I think it would be a great fit for many of our listeners, and I would highly encourage our listeners to go over and check out your website and listen to your episodes. I think there's a lot of crossover between what we do. So, could you introduce the podcast and what you do over there?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of crossover, so hopefully it's useful for some people. And I suppose in the early days, I was very focused on this is how to learn English. Here's some grammar rules, and it was much more like structured, I suppose. But yet these days, as they do, as podcasts will do, if you do them for so many years, it's kind of evolved into something a bit different. It's quite casual. I try to keep it casual. I try to show what I would call real English, where I'm not making my voice sound too unnatural or slowing down too much. But yeah, I just generally pick a topic that I'm interested in, that I want to explore more, or something that I'm passionate about, and I explore that in an episode. And while doing so, I might share some useful expressions or vocabulary. I'll do my best to explain as I go along. And yeah, I think the main idea is probably very similar to you. It's just giving people who want some. I guess they're too busy. Maybe they might be too busy to learn English, sit down at the desk, but they can listen on the way to work or something like that. And yeah, hopefully I'm giving a bit of motivation as well as showing them new vocab or how to learn.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so important when you're learning a language just to get the language into your head, right? You need to do just overwhelming amounts of input. And so the more opportunities that people who are learning English have to do that, that's great. Here at Culips, I feel like I'm working all the time to make great content and great episodes and lessons for everyone, but we still only do 2 episodes per week. And so, people need more than 2 episodes. They need more content. And so it's great to expose yourself to lots of different speakers, lots of different styles of English. And so, yeah, I would highly encourage our listeners to go and check out your podcast as well. By the way, how many episodes do you do per week or
Ooh.
per month?
This is what I was thinking of. Like, I think a lot of people really, maybe just they're not aware of how much effort it takes to make a podcast. It looks like quite a simple thing, but as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of work that can go into it. Even a random just like sit down and talk episode. So because of that, I just do one a week, and these can be up to an hour maybe, so that they can be quite long sometimes. But yeah, just one episode a week is my current aim.
That's great. Yeah. No, I think as language learners, I know with me learning Korean, I'm greedy. Like I just want every day when I wake up, I want to put in my AirPods and I want to listen to like some great new conversation or episode in the Korean language that will help me. And yeah, it's not available. And I think listeners who are learning English, they want the same thing, right? They want these like great Culips episodes each and every day. But it does take a lot of time and effort, like doing everything, producing, as you know. So yeah, 1 episode a week I think is totally reasonable. And yeah, so guys, you can have up to 3 episodes per week if you combine Culips with the Level Up podcast, Level Up English podcast. Then that's better than just one. Okay, Michael, before we wrap up here, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but before we do, I had some rapid fire questions that I wanted to ask you. Are you up for some quick rapid fires?
Okay, I'll try my best. I'm nervous, but let's do it.
I hate putting people on the spot, but if you want to pass, just pass. I wrote, these are all about the UK as well, because I know so many of our listeners are curious about what life is like in the UK and the culture. And of course, it's the birthplace of English. And so these are all kind of UK centered questions. Sometimes people ask me these questions and I can try my best to answer them, but I'm not from there. So I don't know as well as you are. Mostly about pop culture. So I'm wondering, what is your favorite all-time UK TV show?
Ooh, this is funny. Again, I'll try not to ramble it. I know it's a quick one. I tend to watch much more American shows than British shows, so that's kind of ironic. The one that popped into my head, which I remember is definitely British, is one called Humans. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't seen or heard of Humans.
Ooh, I haven't seen it in a few years, so my memory's rusty, but
Okay.
it's essentially, it's kind of like sci-fi, but realistic sci-fi, so it feels like it could happen. And it's kind of about robots or AI and sentience, maybe fighting for their right to be treated equally to humans. Uh, I need to rewatch it actually, but yeah, really good one. If you like sci-fi, I recommend Humans.
Okay, Humans. I'm making a note here. Sounds right down my alley, so I'm going to check that out. Humans. Okay, good. How about a band? Do you have a favorite band from Britain?
From Britain, same as before. Like most of my bands are not from Britain. I guess I'm a
Fair
traitor to
enough.
my own country.
Yeah, well, you could always just go with the Beatles,
Hmm.
right? That's a safe one.
I don't like them though. I really don't. I know it's controversial,
No?
but it's not my cup
Wow.
of tea.
Okay, okay.
um, that's really tough. Yeah, I listen to a lot of metal, heavy metal, and a lot of that is American, French as well, Swedish, that kind of stuff. I
Is Iron
off the top,
Maiden from England?
I think they are, but again,
Yeah.
that's not exactly what I listen to. It's a little bit before my time, maybe, but
Right,
it's
yeah, they're
not.
pretty old.
But yeah, that's a hard one for me to answer. But my favorite band these days is maybe Gojira, which is a French metal band. They're amazing, but I know that's not really relevant to the question.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, this one you for sure have an answer to. And it is your favorite snack from Britain. Favorite snack, a favorite
Hmm.
food. It's got to be
Got it. Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So
Mm.
this I thought about this when I go back to the UK. What's the first thing that I will have? A lot of people will make fun of me. Maybe you will as well for this. Uh, this is beans on toast.
Okay.
Are you
Not
familiar
what I
with
was
this
expecting.
delicacy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, some people in Canada eat it, and
Okay.
to be honest, I think it's delicious as well.
Oh, nice.
I wouldn't say no to it for sure.
I don't know how it is in Canada. In the US, I've had what we call baked beans, and they're very sweet. So it's different than the ones we have in England. But yeah, in England, just toast, butter, beans on top, and maybe some like cheese or something else like that on the top. It is amazing. Yeah.
And the beans are the beans that are in a tomato sauce, right?
Yes. Yeah. Salty tomato sauce. Yeah.
Sure, not sweet. Okay, got it. Good. Two more for you. Favorite British tradition? Is there, I mean, such a long history in the UK, and there's got to be some kind of tradition or culture that you think is maybe unique or cool or special. Anything that pops into your mind?
Yeah. I mean, this is something I think we don't do that well because we're such a multicultural country in many ways. I feel like we've lost a lot of our traditions. We don't do many of them anymore. But one of the main ones that we still do, which is unique to the UK, is has a few names, maybe Guy Fawkes Day or Fireworks Night, Bonfire Night. Have you heard about this before?
Yeah, I think growing up in Canada, we learn about it as being the British equivalent of Halloween.
I mean,
Is
we also have
that
Halloween, but it's similar to that.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you could tell us about it and tell me about it.
Yeah, in short, I won't bore with too much detail, but in short, uh, around about 400 years ago, I believe, there was a man called Guy Fawkes who wanted to assassinate the king for religious reasons, I guess. And he had a plan to blow up the Houses of Parliament. This is the buildings where you have Big Ben, very famous buildings in London. And he put barrels of gunpowder underneath the building. And his plan was to blow it up, kill everyone, kill the king. And right before he could do that, he was foiled, he was caught by the guards, and hanged, maybe? Executed somehow. So he basically, in short, he failed with his assassination attempt. And ever since then, we kind of celebrate the fact that he failed. We commemorate that day by having lots of fireworks, which I suppose represents the explosion that would have happened. I don't know the logic with that. But also, we burn an effigy. An effigy is like a dummy, a fake person of Guy Fawkes. So it sounds a bit barbaric, a bit kind of crazy, but we basically have maybe he's made of straw or something like that, and we chuck him in the fire and burn him on this huge, huge bonfire. So that's a big part of the festival.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting day. When is that celebrated?
It's the 5th of November. There's actually a little rhyme that we learn in
Yeah.
school, which is
Right.
remember the 5th of November. So everyone knows
Exactly.
that in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Guy Fawkes Day. Nice. Last one for you. Last rapid fire. What is your favorite sport that's popular in the UK?
I'm beginning to think I'm just not very British culturally.
Okay.
I don't really like team sports. I'm not really a team player when it comes to sports. I don't. I like doing things alone, like cycling, hiking. Um,
I mean, there's a lot of great cyclists from the UK.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I think it's a pretty good country to go cycling in. The climate can be quite good for cycling generally. But I mean, if I had to pick a more British sport, I think football, of course, is the most famous. And I haven't played football in a team for, I mean, since I was a kid, honestly. But that is one that I would enjoy playing for sure. I just rarely do. So again, my answer is not exactly answering directly your question, but yeah, I'd say something like that.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I mean, it's kind of unfair. You're not speaking for the whole of the country, right? But I know so many of our listeners are interested in England and British culture and all of those things. So I thought I'd get a real native's opinion. So thank you for answering those. And Michael, I think that'll bring us to the end of our interview here. So thank you so much for talking to me today. It was great to get to know you a bit. And I hope many of our listeners go over and check out your website. We'll put the link in the description for this episode, guys, so that you can just go and check that out easily. But yeah, thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's been really fun.
And that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Again, a huge thanks to Michael from the Level Up English podcast. It was great chatting with him, and I really enjoyed the conversation, as I hope you did too. Remember to check out our Discord server, which is the place where the Culips community gathers. We hang out with each other, we talk with each other, and we build our English fluency together. It's free for everyone to join, and the link is in the description for this episode. I can't wait to hear about your comments. I'll be keeping my eyes and ears peeled for them. Everyone, please take care. Have a great week up ahead here, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.